Hey everybody. So one question that I get asked a lot on this channel is who my favorite players are, whether you're talking about a specific team or in the league in general. People are always asking, which players do I really like? So for this video, I am going to go through all 31 NHL teams and pick my favorite player on each team in the NHL. Obviously, we have a lot to do, so I don't want this video to be way too long, so I'm not going to go into great detail about each guy. I'm just going to talk a little bit about why he is my favorite player on this particular team and what I like about him and stuff like that. And we'll just go through alphabetical order, starting with Anaheim all the way through to Winnipeg, and just pick. I will tell you guys my favorite player on each team. Now, these are not the best players on every team. These are my personal favorites for whatever reason that I really like. Generally, I think you're going to notice a theme here where I like hardworking, physical players, guys who, really play with an edge, power forward type guys, defensive defenseman type guys. Those are the kind of players I really, really like most of the time. And let's just get into it here with Anaheim. And starting with the Anaheim Ducks, my favorite Duck is Josh Manson. He went to college at Northeastern, which is in Boston near me. He's a Hockey East college player, and I've been following him since he was playing at Northeastern. And he's put together a very nice NHL career up to this point. He's a strong defensive defenseman who's physical, willing to hit and fight if needed, and just a really good player that I really enjoy watching and love the physical edge that he plays the game with. Arizona, Brad Richardson. I've always just had a ton of respect for Brad Richardson because he's been in the league for a long time now, he's never been a star player. He's always a third or fourth line type guy, but I've just always had a ton of respect for the way he's played, and he's always been one of those important depth guys that, kills penalties, can take face-offs, blocks shots, lays it all on the line for the team, even though he's not a guy that's going to get a lot of praise or a lot of recognition for what he does. You need players like Brad Richardson to be successful, and he's put together a very nice NHL career, and he's my favorite on the Arizona Coyotes. Boston, I've mentioned this a bunch of times with Boston being my favorite team. Patrice Bergeron, without a doubt, my number one guy for the Bruins. Obviously, I like a lot of Bruins, but Bergeron is my number one. Just what he's done, a career Boston Bruin up to this point, and hopefully and probably a career Boston Bruin for his entire career. I can't imagine him playing anywhere else. Just one of the best two-way players in the history of the NHL, not just in the league right now, in the history of the NHL. He is one of the best two-way players ever. Without a doubt, a Hall of Famer in my mind, without a doubt. His jersey will be retired by the Bruins when he retires, and just an all-time Boston Bruin there in Patrice Bergeron. For Buffalo, it's Zach Bogosian. I am a big fan of Zach Bogosian in the way that he plays. He was a very high draft pick back when for the Atlanta Thrashers, going back a number of years now. And he never really turned into that, the high-end defenseman that a pick of that at that point in the draft you would hope that he would. But he's really fought through a lot in his career. He's had a lot of injury issues, but he continues to fight through that. And now at this point, he's not a top pair defenseman, but he's somebody who you can put in the middle or at the bottom of a defense core, and he's a really good veteran, stay-at-home defensive guy who's not afraid to be physical, stands up for his teammates, and is just a guy that I really like a lot and have a lot of respect for. For Calgary, Travis Hamonic. I've just always loved Travis Hamonic. Another physical defensive defenseman who just stands up for his teammates, stands up for himself, and I just love the way that he plays the game. Carolina, Michael Furland. He's got traded to the Hurricanes before this past season, and Furland is a guy He burst onto the scene in the 2015 playoffs with the Flames, and I fell in love with Michael Furland in that Vancouver-Calgary series in 2015, where he was just an absolute freight train hitting everything in sight. Power forward guy who's gotten a lot better offensively as his career's gone on, and just one of my favorite players. For Chicago, it's Alex DeBrincat. I'm a huge fan of what Alex DeBrincat's done for the Chicago Blackhawks. Small guy, 5'7", 160, 165 pounds, but he's scrappy. He goes to the net, and obviously he's put up a ton of points in his young NHL career. I am a huge fan of Alex DeBrincat in Chicago. Even though Chicago is one of my least favorite teams in the league, I am a big fan of his. Colorado, Nikita Zadorov. I love Nikita Zadorov. He's so physical. He hits everybody and anybody, and just a really fun guy to watch. Every time I watch an Avalanche game, I am just waiting for Zadorov to absolutely destroy somebody, and he makes the games a lot more exciting. So he is my favorite guy in Colorado. Columbus, Nick Foligno. I am a huge Nick Foligno fan. Just love the way that he plays the game. He's a leader. He's a veteran. He's a power forward type player. Real scrappy guy. Big fan of Nick Foligno's. For Dallas, it's Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn is one of my favorite players in the entire NHL. He is really one of the last, old school star players remaining. Whereas he hits, he's not afraid to drop the gloves from time to time. And he's a star, a superstar player for the Stars. Just one of my absolute favorite kinds of players. One of the last few of those left in the NHL, and absolutely one of my favorites. For Detroit, Anthony Mantha. I've become a big fan of Anthony Mantha over the last couple of seasons. Again, he's a power forward. He's not afraid to play physically, especially for a young guy. He drops the gloves. And he can score. He scores a lot of goals. He's a very good goal scorer. And he also plays with an edge and that physicality that I love so much in hockey. So Mantha has really become one of my favorite guys, and my favorite guy on the Red Wings. The Edmonton Oilers, it's Darnell Nurse. The Oilers are one of those teams where they don't have a lot going for them, especially defensively, but Darnell Nurse, I absolutely love that guy. Physical force back there. I think the offense is going to continue to improve as well, and I think he's going to be a great all-around defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers in the future. I think, very Josh Manson-like, maybe even a little bit better for Darnell Nurse. Florida, Alexander Barkov. I think he's the most underrated player in the league. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. I absolutely love Alexander Barkov for the Panthers. Los Angeles, Kyle Clifford. I have loved Kyle Clifford his entire career. He's been an LA King his entire career. He's been their fighter, their enforcer, and I remember him coming to the league. He was a very tough kid, was not afraid to fight anybody when he first came in. He's slowed down, dropping the gloves as he's gotten older. He's also had some injury issues along the way, but I am a huge Kyle Clifford fan. Minnesota, the other Foligno brother, Marcus. I obviously talked about Nick earlier. Marcus, again, he brings that physical edge. Just love the way that he plays the game. He's that hard-hitting, power forward type guy. And, the offense hasn't always been there for him, but he always plays high effort and physically. So I'm a big Marcus Foligno fan. Montreal, obviously being a Bruins fan, it's hard to like anybody on Montreal, but for me, I love Shea Weber. I have loved Shea Weber his entire career, going back to when he was in Nashville. He's one of my favorite defensemen. I just have a ton of respect for the way that he plays, and think he is a phenomenal defenseman and he's had a great NHL career, and I hope it continues for a long time. He's had some injury issues the last few years, but I really hope he stays healthy and has at least 4 or 5 more good, solid, top NHL seasons. Nashville, there's a lot of guys I like on Nashville, but Wayne Simmons, got traded there at the deadline, and he is absolutely one of my favorite players in the entire NHL. He has been for years. He, as far as I'm concerned, when I think of hockey and what I would want in a hockey player, Wayne Simmonds is the perfect hockey player. He hits, he fights, and he's a very good fighter. And he can score 30 goals in a season. And there is nothing better than that in hockey. And he, to me, is just the perfect kind of player that I want on a hockey team. And I absolutely love Wayne Simmonds. For New Jersey, not as physical, but still a similar style of play, Miles Wood. Now, Miles Wood went to Boston College. I watched him a lot in playing in college, and he was one of my favorite guys there in the NCAA. He's physical. He can skate so well. I think his offense is going to continue to improve at the NHL level. But he is just, I love Miles Wood. I've loved him, throughout for a number of years now, just the way that he plays. And he is a lot of fun to watch. For the New York Islanders, Matt Martin, obviously he's a tough guy, a fighter, although he didn't fight all that much this year. Throughout his career, he's been an enforcer. And I've loved him throughout his career. The way that he plays the game, he's not a dirty player. He knows his role. He plays it very well. He's very physical. He'll fight anybody. He fought Chara this year on the Bruins, and I'm a huge fan of Matt Martin's and have been for a long time. For the New York Rangers, Brady Shea. Absolutely love Brady Shea. He is an electric player back there on their defense. Offensive defenseman, not afraid to jump up into the play. He's phenomenal. I know that the Rangers aren't the best team right now. They're in the middle of a rebuild, but Shea is a guy who I think is going to be a very important piece for them going forward, and a guy that I like a lot. Ottawa, for the Senators, it's Brady Tkachuk. He was a rookie this year. He had like 4 or 5 fights already this year, on top of being, a top 5 NHL draft pick and somebody with a ton of offense in his future. He's a power forward, goes to the net, but not afraid to mix it up and be physical. Again, exactly the kind of player that I really, really love in hockey. For Philadelphia, it's Travis Konechny. Not a big guy, but he is not afraid to stick his nose in there and mix it up. I love guys like that, especially, the smaller players who aren't afraid to go to the net and start, messing around with bigger guys. And Konechny is one of those guys. And again, he can score too. He is a very good player as well. Pittsburgh, Eric Goodbranson, new to the Penguins, but Eric Goodbranson is, when he came into the league with Florida, I was like, this is a guy that I really like his style of play. He's a big, tough, physical, defensive defenseman, and just love what he brings to the table physically and defensively. And I think Pittsburgh needed that. When they brought him in, they needed somebody like him because they were not an overly tough team. And I'm glad to see Pittsburgh bringing someone like Goodbranson, and I really like him a lot. San Jose, Brendan Dillon. I have just always been a big Brendan Dillon fan. He's been in San Jose for years now. He played in Dallas before that. But I can't pinpoint it exactly, but I love Brendan Dillon. He's been my favorite Shark now for quite a while. St. Louis, Braden Shen. Mostly, I became a huge Braden Shen fan when he was in Philadelphia. He was a wrecking ball when he came into the league for the Flyers. Not only did he have the offensive talent and the skating ability to put up a lot of points, he was an absolute animal physically too. He could fight. He would throw his huge hits. Since going over to St. Louis, he's toned things down a lot physically, but he's still a great player. And his point totals have gone up and up and up, and he's become a big-time point producer for St. Louis. So he is my favorite Blue. I really like him a lot, and he's been one of my favorite players for a long time now. Tampa Bay, Braden Point. Braden Point has become my favorite player on the Lightning. Just the mix of the offensive ability and the willingness to get in there and mix it up in front of the net and drop the gloves from time to time. Just, again, Braden Point is not a guy you expect to be, standing up for teammates and fighting and playing ultra physically, but he does. He's willing to do it, and I just absolutely love guys like that. So between him being such an underrated player and becoming a superstar, and his willingness to engage physically, I have become a huge Braden Point fan. For Toronto, now there aren't many guys on Toronto that I like, being a Bruins fan especially, and the fact that this Boston versus Toronto rivalry has really taken off over the past couple of years. I hate most of the Maple Leafs. One guy that I do not hate is Morgan Rielly. I have a ton of respect for the way that Morgan Rielly plays the game. He has been a phenomenal defenseman for the Maple Leafs for a number of years now, and he's a great offensive player. His defense has improved as he's gotten older and more mature, and I am a big Morgan Rielly fan. Vancouver, honestly, Vancouver's not a team I've seen a lot of in the last few years, and it's tough for me to pick somebody. But I went with Bo Horvat, again, because he's a very hard-working guy. And I love those guys who aren't there because of their talent. They're there because of their hard work. And Bo Horvat's one of those guys. Not a big guy, but, really puts in the effort on a nightly basis. Good point producer. Really become one of the better players in Vancouver. And he is my favorite guy on the Canucks right now. Vegas, it's Ryan Reeves. I love Revo. That guy, Ryan Reeves, is absolutely fantastic. He's hilarious off the ice. If you've ever seen any interviews or seen him in the locker room, he's hilarious off the ice. He's a great guy, really fun guy. And then on the ice, he's an absolute beast. I think he's the best fighter in the NHL. He's an absolute animal on the ice. He's physical. Can beat anybody up, and just one of my favorite guys. So I'm a huge fan of Ryan Reeves, and he had a very good year with Vegas this year, and I'm really happy to see that, and I hope that that continues into next season. Washington, TJ Oshie. I like the Capitals, and there's a lot of guys on the Capitals that I do like, but TJ Oshie's my favorite. Just such a down-to-earth, hard-working guy. Very good player. Somebody who can score 25, 30 goals in a season. But puts in the work night in and night out. Not afraid to play physically when needed. He seems like such a great guy. I mean, I've never met him, but I've seen plenty of interviews, and obviously what he did in the Olympics and the shootout, that really made TJ Oshie a countrywide name that people knew, and he's had a great career starting with the Blues, then going to Washington. I love TJ Oshie. And finally, for the Winnipeg Jets, Mark Scheifele. Again, Winnipeg's one of my favorite teams other than the Bruins, and I like a lot of the players on the Jets, but Mark Scheifele, I mean, I've been talking about Mark Scheifele for a few years now. I remember back to even before, well before Off the Wall Hockey even started, I was talking about Mark Scheifele and the player that I thought he was going to become, and he has turned into everything that I thought and more. Just phenomenal center iceman for Winnipeg, and he's just gotten better and better as his career's gone on, and he's really a star player at this point, and just a great player. So there you have it. There are my favorite players from every team. So all 31 teams now, you guys know who my favorite player is on each one. Yeah, that's about it. So thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. Keep spreading. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description below. Keep spreading the word about this channel. We're on the road to 1K. hopefully they're over 880 now subscribers. Thank you guys so much for that, and we are hopefully well on our way to 1,000 here in the next few weeks, or maybe up to a month or so, but we'll see what happens. But with that, again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.